Hello and welcome to Handgun Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Michad from the wild woods of central Maine, and this is your home for all the news, information, and discussion in the handgunning world. This week, we talk with Sean from the GunBlog Variety Cast about his Sig Sauer P320 experience. So as always, Handgun Radio is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network, and please check out the Patriot Patch Company for their awesome patches and other high-quality items. Visit patriotpatch.co for more information. And as always, shop Amazon using our affiliate link at firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And weird, if you wanted to help support Handgun Radio, how would you do it legally?
Oh, see, you just ruined it right there. I had to go for legally.
I have a great idea. I know how I would do it.
How would you do it, Sean?
I would go to gunblogvarietygcast.com and look in the right sidebar for support the show. That's how I would do it.
I think that is an excellent idea. Or I guess if you want to be uptight, baby, you could head over to firearmsradio.tv/pledge and click on HGR.
Thank you, Austin. And as always, I will... What?
That would certainly work too.
Head over to firearmsradio.tv/pledge. Bunch of different pledge levels over there. We really appreciate it. So, Sean, welcome to Handgun Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ryan. And that weird guy, I'm not so sure about him, but you, I'm totally glad to be on the show with you.
I don't know who this person is. I never heard of her.
He's in one of those weird states where you have to actually register guns and all that crazy stuff. I don't know if we should trust him.
I wouldn't trust me. I bet that dude's a narc.
So weird. What did you do this week?
I did a lot of cooking and cleaning and chasing after small children, and I don't even know what my excuse was for not hitting the range. I needed to hit the range. I did not hit the range. Next week, I'm going to hit the range.
Did you set up your workshop? Did you clean up your basement?
Nope. Nope. It's filthy.
And before you even ask, no, I don't have my CNR yet.
So there.
So we're even, I suppose.
But tell us about your workshop, Ryan.
Well, it's finished. Basically, I have a bench grinder, I have a miter saw, my reloading area is set up, I have some new lights that I set up, additional lights, a pretty heavy-duty drill press, shells. Everything's basically the way I want it. And I have one of those fancy things I showed you. I was like, I'd never seen this before. My grandfather did it. I'm sure someone else did. And a bunch of people pointed out that he actually did. They did, rather. The screw in the caps of the peanut butter jars up into a board and then using those as storage.
I believe my great-grandfather did that. But, of course, these would be metal lids and glass jars because, you know.
But it's very useful.
Yeah.
So you take the cap of the peanut butter jar, screw that up into the board, and then you can like put screws. Like I have a bunch of screws and hooks and nails and everything, and you just kind of screw that up into the caps that are attached to the board, and you have hanging storage for little tiny pieces that tend to get lost. Which, if you have a lot of gunsmithing stuff or gun parts that are tiny, that might be a good option for storage for you.
All right, let's get down to brass tacks here. Now that you've got the drill press and all that stuff, the miter saw, how long before you start flipping high points?
I don't know. Like I told you, it'd be like, just like, oh yeah, Ryan's gunsmithing service. Grant, this is all that you use, right? Like this is all you need.
Yep, exactly.
We still have to have that. I want to have that show with him discussing all the stuff
we do need to have that show, but. Yeah. But yeah, no, like you gotta get maybe get a tank so you can do some bumper chrome plating on the high points.
So I also visited the James D. Julia Fall 2017 auction preview. If you haven't yet seen the pictures, they are on the Handgun Radio Facebook page. Go check them out. There's 212 really good pictures. My friend Dana came up. We did a range trip after the auction preview, but he brought his really super high quality camera. And we got a lot of fantastic pictures of all the guns that are there. So be sure to go check those out. It's an album on the Handgun Radio Facebook page. And then we shot some zombie pumpkins after that at the range. Had some good times. Got some good pictures there using the remote camera. Yeah, pretty much a good weekend all around.
So at the James D. Julia... Since this is Handgun Radio, what was the handgun that knocked your socks off, or a couple?
There weren't really a lot of. I mean, there was a whole case of Colt and Smith & Wesson revolvers that were like brand new out of the factory, not a mark on them.
Wow.
And those are that was probably the one case, but most of it was like, it was just cool to see like an MP5K, G3, shorty G3s and full auto, a full auto BM59, a Stoner 63. I got to hold a Stoner 63, which is something I never have ever seen in my life.
Isn't Ian from Forgotten Weapons selling a
I got to fondle Ian's Vickers up there too. I was like, hey, I know who owns that gun. So yeah, his Vickers was selling up there. I think the auction's on Monday or Tuesday. I'm trying to think. George Custer's personal Derringer was there.
So it's kind of too late to set up a GoFundMe to get to buy Ian's Vickers.
Yeah, you'll probably, I mean, if you can do it in like 2 days, you might be able to.
He had that interesting one of the what was it? It wasn't a Civil War. It was made in St. Louis, that cap and ball revolver, but it was given to a Confederate general, and the gun had been stolen, but the holster had been owned by the owner, and the gun was recovered. And so both the gun and the holster are being sold in auction after being separated for a number of years. But they're by two different parties. So the idea is hopefully someone will reunite the two.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah, it's up on Forgotten Weapons channel. However you choose to watch them.
So
Sean, what did you do this week?
I shot the latest IDPA classifier. I think we talked about it. I think Weird and I talked about it on the podcast. I was expecting to get a solid sharpshooter finish because I just barely squeaked into sharpshooter when I shot it before. I needed 100. I thought there was also a possibility, just a small one, that I could make expert. I shot it in 104.38 seconds, and I needed 96 to make expert. So this is a huge improvement over the 138.06 that I shot back, I think it was in April.
So for the two of us who don't do really any competition shooting, Weird, do you do any? I don't think so.
No, I haven't. I want to. It's on my bucket list, but I just have not.
It's not really that difficult. You just take a gun and show up.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it for?
Seriously, about a year, maybe about that much.
Do you reload, or do you buy your own ammo or buy ammo?
Well, currently the ammo that I'm shooting, which is the only ammo that I'm shooting at all, is when I'm shooting in competition. That ammo was given to me by Lucky Gunner and Remington. So
nice.
I got about 1,000 rounds from them that I've been using a little bit here and a little bit there to shoot competition with. I am hoping at some point to be able to go up to my father's house and steal his Dillon 650, convert it to 9mm, and then start making my own ammo.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, the Dillon 650 is a good choice. I wish it was the choice I had made.
Are you using a turret, Weird?
No, I've got a Pro 1000, so it's a true progressive, but it's just it's the Dillon 650, but a third the price and a third the quality.
And here I am with my Lee single stage.
Hey man, the Lee single stage isn't going to break. I've got a Lee single stage and it still works just fine. It's the progressive that's broken.
Yeah, and I run my dad's rock chucker for reloading for my 243 Winchester. I have a Remington Model 700 and 243, and all of my hand loads for that are on the rock chucker, and I really like it.
I don't mind it. I mean, I'll load in batches, and the only thing I really load for is revolver rounds, 357 and 38. And, I load with Trail Boss, so I can do 50 primed cases, do all my loading, and I'm happy with it. I mean, we loaded some, actually, the other morning, they wanted to see what it was like to reload some ammo. So when my friends came up, I showed them how to reload the ammo we were going to shoot the pumpkins with. We did a bunch of rounds, then we took them out and shot the pumpkins. I said, there you go. There's the ammo that you loaded using, shooting the pumpkins that you painted. So here you go.
So Tom Sawyered it.
Oh man,
what were you shooting at the pumpkins? I saw that they weren't real splattered. So
well,
you gotta get just the right round for pumpkins.
They were 357 hollow points, XTPs, a few that I had left over, and then a bunch of semi-wad cutter 38s that we loaded.
My
And then
pers-
then the AR afterwards.
I mean, if you can't go 12 gauge slugs, which will turn pumpkins into pumpkin pie filling, the 7.62 by 39 is kind of that beautiful little sweet spot where the bullet's big enough and slow enough, and it'll start to yaw when it hits the pumpkin.
I didn't have a pumpkin expert with me. I'm sorry, Weird, that you're not pleased.
Well, I wish you had invited me.
All right, so with that, we'll head into the main topic, the Sig Sauer P320 experience with Sean from the GunBlog Variety Cast. So, Weird, this is actually kind of your baby. You texted me and said, hey, we should talk about that Sig 320, and Sean is the man to talk to about it.
Well, yeah, if you're listening to this live, like the GunBlog Variety Cast just dropped for this week, and Sean and I were co-hosting it, and Sean was talking about his 320s, and I went, "Oh yeah, we don't really get too deep into the minutia of the handgun, the guns in general in that show," and so I'm like, you know what? Sean really he's really got bit hard by the 320 bugs. So you know what? We should have him on so he can talk about his beloved pistols. So what do you have, Sean?
I have two. I have a carry gun, which is in 320 compact in 9mm, and I have a full size P320 that I use as a competition gun.
Very nice. So first, let's talk about the competition gun.
Okay, what do you want to know about it?
Tell me all about it. All done. It's not stock, right?
Well, no, I might have done one or two things to it, just to make it a little more better for competition, right? Buy every advantage you can get. So what I did is I put a set of Dawson sights on it. I got a black rear sight, and I have a fiber optic front sight.
What's the sights that come with them?
Oh, these god awful ugly 3-dot blocks that cover up more than they reveal, let me tell you.
Yep.
They're not quite the dovetail protectors that Glock sends out, but they're big blocky sights. They're not really that great for seeing things. And when you're trying to see things quickly so that you can shoot rapidly, and even at the speed that I'm shooting, which isn't all that great, the Dawsons are really a lot better. So nice and sharp, metal, relatively thin. I can see them really well, and I've got a fiber optic. And what's really cool is you can buy your own fiber optic and put whatever color you like. So it came with red. I swapped it out for green, and you're not going to believe this, but I found purple fiber optic. I haven't put that in yet.
I wonder if that's going to work for you. I wonder if you're going to be like, oh, I'm the purple guy. The purple fiber optic's my thing, but I pick up the green faster.
The reason that I put green in there is because studies have been showing that the human eye sees green faster than it sees red. So that was really the reason for the green. There's other people, like I know a guy who won't shoot green because it looks yellow to him, and yellow doesn't contrast with a lot of the backgrounds you're shooting at. You're shooting at a brown target. It just doesn't show up. So he won't use green because the way it looks in his eye, it doesn't contrast well. So, it's a really individual choice. And what I have heard is that the purple doesn't look purple, at least from the perspective of the person shooting it. It looks white. That might actually be pretty cool.
Okay.
Other mods on the gun. After I got the sights in, I got the call from Gray Guns. I signed up to get a Gray Guns trigger, and they have this, like, we'll send you an email and send it, you send it to us, but we don't want to keep your gun for weeks and weeks on end while we wait to get to it. So we can have the waiting list online, and you'll just mail it to us when we get to you. And they were promising like a 60-day wait period before you send it in, or maybe 30. I can't remember what it was. Well, I put in for it on like a Thursday, and Monday morning I'm getting this email, hey, send it in. I'm like, holy crap, I barely got it back from the guy who put the sights in it. So I mailed it off to him. I put the Gray Guns competition trigger into it, and while I was at it, I got the Gray Guns, like a 1911 style guide rod and spring. And one of the people that Gray Guns works with a lot is Springer Precision. And they sold me some base pads for the magazines, and some grip tape. And that's kind of a funny story too. I was talking to Caleb, the guy that works at Springer Precision. He's the guy that handles a lot of the emails. And uh, I had sort of previous to this bonded with Annette Evans, who's a competition shooter, over the fact that we both love the color purple, not the movie, like the color. So she has her gun done up in purple, and I was thinking at that point of getting my gun Cerakoted in purple. And so, purple's this great color, and she's like, "Hey, I've got my base pads. They were all done by Springer, and they were done anodized in purple." So Caleb was trying to sell me purple anodized base pads and maybe a hanger for a holster, which I don't have any use for shooting IDPA. Well, I looked at him and I was like, well, maybe yes, maybe no. But what about this grip tape you've got? You've got black grip tape, you've got red, you've got yellow, and you've got blue, but no purple. And he's like, well, we just don't have it. We don't get a lot of call for it. So I said, well, where do you get this tape? Maybe if I know where you get the tape, I'll just buy some of it. He says, well, it comes in a 50-foot roll, but we get it from this guy. So I looked it up. I found it. I asked him to send me a sample, and it happened to be the exact same color purple as the purple holster that I got from CompTac. And I'm like, this is what I want. How about I buy one of these rolls? Well, Caleb, apparently, when I was talking about this, he was talking to other people that he was selling purple anodized base pads and stuff to, and discovered that there was enough call for this tape that they just bought some and cut me 3 of them. So I have purple grip tape on my, well, now it's a purple gun. I got it Cerakoted by a local guy, Carolina Ceramic Coatings.
Yeah.
Coating, not coatings. I keep doing that.
So yeah, tell us about the paint job on this gun.
Well, originally what we were going to do was some kind of a urban camouflage in purple, white, and black. And the guy that was trying to do it, he just couldn't find the right pattern. And I had initially rejected doing a what's that scaly pattern?
Cryptek.
The Cryptek, yeah. Because every Cryptek paint job I'd ever seen, it looks like funny colored scales on a snake. And a little bit goes a long way on that, and just totally covering something in scales just didn't look right to me. Well, the guy at Carolina Ceramic Coating had been doing these cryptic patterns, and he'd kind of felt the same way as me. So what he'd do is he'd do a big patch of scales, and then he would do a big patch somewhere else, and he would use the colors to sort of blend between the two, and it would be patches of cryptic on it. And I saw it online, as they're posting stuff to Instagram. So I stopped in and I said, I want to see this rifle. You still have it here? Oh yeah, it's right here. And he shows it to me, and I'm like, that's what I want right there. Do that in purple, white, and black, and that's exactly it. Well, they got it to me, and I am it's awesome. I love it.
So what can you tell us about gray guns and their triggers?
Okay, gray guns. This is something I want to get in on because Bruce Gray does amazing work. Regardless of just the Sig 320, I was just looking at some stuff he did with a bunch of HK P7s where he lengthened the slides, made like long slide P7s. This guy is an artist.
Oh, that's
from what
cool.
I've seen.
He is. I'm not entirely certain of all the things he does. I am really late on the whole SIG thing because I really, really dislike double action, single action. I think DASA guns are a solution in search of a problem. Um, I I've heard some people who are really, really well respected who really, really like double single, and I guess having a trigger that's a little harder to pull for a first shot might be a good idea for police officers. But my gun, if it ever comes out of the holster for social purposes, I'm probably going to pull the trigger right away because I'm not pulling it out to hold somebody at gunpoint. And I
Right.
just don't like them. The Army handed me one and I hated it. I hated shooting that thing. I was never any good at it. Of course, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, so that might have something to do with it. But I've always thought it was a solution to search for a problem. So when I was looking for guns, I was looking at a Glock which I never really liked too much. I can shoot them just fine. I just don't really like them much. I bought a I bought an XD, so I fell for that one. And I carried a 45 compact XD for 8 years. And I really, 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 really wanted to get away from 45 when I found out that 9mm works just as well. And it's a modern ammunition thing, but I just, I needed to find something that I could work with. I did not like the Smith and Wesson M&P. I didn't really like the Glock. The M&P just felt bad in my hands, and you'd think I'd say that about the Glock. That doesn't really bother me. It didn't feel really super comfortable, but I just never really liked it that much. Well, I was out with I never tell anybody what I do for a job in public. There's some good reasons to keep my politics separated from my work life. But I was out doing what it is I do for a living, which involves me from going from place to place and conducting some sort of inspections. And I was in this one place. It was a auto shop. It was guys, independent guys that were working on people's cars. And something about gun people, we just know who each other are. Like there'll be a sticker up or something posted that just lets you know these are gun people. So I started talking about guns because that's what gun people do. We talk about guns. And the guy's like, "Here, I got to show you this. This is really cool." And he opens up his toolbox and he pulls out this little tiny microscopic 1911 style pistol and hands it to me. He clears it and hands it to me. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." It's whatever the tiny, tiny 9mm 1911 style Sig happens to be.
Not the 938.
It might be. I wouldn't know. And I'm like, I can get two fingers on it, and I could hide it in a book of matches. But pretty much everybody knows what I think of single stack 9mm. I hate them. Like there's no point to them, and especially ones I can't get a full grip on. I mean, I'm not that good of a shooter that I really want to go to a gun that I can barely hold on to. So I'm like, and he could tell. He's looking at me like, "Okay, you don't really like this. Okay, check this one out instead." And he goes to his truck and he reaches under his front seat. He pulls out a box, opens up the box, and he clears this gun and he hands it to me. And I'm like, "Oh, it's a Sig." And I'm like, "Wow, this feels really good in my hand." And then I look at the back of it and there's no hammer. I'm like, "Wait a minute. Since when does Sigs not have hammers on the back of them?" And then I remembered something about this Sig that they were putting out that was going to have no hammer on. It was a striker fired Sig. I was like, "Hey, this is one of them." He's like, "Yeah, it's a P320. It's a P320 compact." And I dry fired it. And I'm like, "Holy crap, this trigger's amazing." I'm like, "Have you done anything to it?" "No, it's totally stock." I'm like, I finally got why people really like Sigs. They feel comfortable in your hand. But that was maybe 2 years ago. And before that, I wouldn't even look at a Sig. I never took one out of I could go to the gun store all the time, but I'm never going to say, "Hey, let me see that Sig," because they're all double action, single action, which I hate. So I know Bruce Gray's got this great reputation, but I barely know anything at all about it because I don't know anything about Sigs, except for the ones I have.
Yeah, actually, Ryan, do you know off the top of your head like what the first like double action striker fired gun was? Was it the VP70 or was there something before that? Or is
I
Ryan
think I
not?
put him to sleep. I think I put the poor guy to sleep.
Sorry, I was muted. The VP70 VP70 is the first striker fired gun, but I don't know.
No, it's not the first striker fired gun because
well,
John Browning was making striker fired guns way before that, but I'm talking about the first one that was double action.
Double action.
Because I think the double action single action is that pretty early on in the development of handguns, people figured, single action was the first thing to come around, and single action was either hammer fired or striker fired. And then double action got figured out very quickly with like revolvers, and transferring that technology over to handguns was pretty intuitive. But the idea
Walther was like the real first big manufacturer to do the double action, like with the PPK and the P38 and all that stuff.
Yeah, the PP and the P38 were the first major double action single actions. But it was that I just think that whole idea of getting a double action around the hammer really went through. And even the VP70, that was double action only, so it wasn't this partially charged striker thing that was going on. That
Yeah, good lord, what the hell am I saying? The VP70 was the first. What the hell? Why are you letting me say these things weird?
well, I want people to know what a fraud you are.
Good God. Oh,
Yeah, but no, the whole it's
well,
not a solution in search of a problem. It's just it's something that just that's how it worked out. Technologically speaking, it was kind of a Cambrian explosion of when Gaston Glock decided to pre-charge the striker, and so have this like kind of half double action, half single action, trigger pull, and then everybody else went on from there.
yeah. Well, the whole, when the Army handed me a Beretta, and everybody else complained about how big the thing was, and I never had a problem with that. I had a problem with the fact that I couldn't shoot the damn thing because the double action pull just killed me. I've hated revolvers ever since I was a kid. My father has a Colt Python, right?
all
Raved
right. It's
about this
been great
gun.
to have you on the show, Sean, and we'll see you later.
And I'm like, I hate this gun. I can't shoot it. And I would shoot the Llama 380 instead.
You
Yeah,
picked
no,
a
I
llama
don't have a
over a
huge problem with
revolver.
the grip of the Beretta, but yeah, also just the big thing is with once you have to master two trigger pulls when you're dealing with a double action, single action. You need to get that long, steady trigger pull. But then if you try to do that, long double action, heavy trigger pull for the light single action pull, you're going to jerk the trigger. And then the same thing is if you try to go with the light single action pull with the double action pull, you're gonna pull it way off target. So it's it adds a lot of complexity to a gun.
I
God
understand
bless you
you
if you
could
get it right, and
it.
if you're in love with it, you're in love with it. But no, I'm with you, Sean. It's really more or less something to be avoided unless you particularly like a platform.
Yeah. I started shooting with two handguns. One was the Colt Python, which just defeated me at every turn. And the other was basically a 380 that had been, not it was a 1911 shrunk down around a 380. It was made by Llama, so we're not talking the highest quality control in the world. But I love that little gun. It was the gun I always would shoot. If I had an option, I was going to shoot that one and not the Python. Just wasn't going to touch it. And if I ever shot the Python, I only ever shot it in single action because that double action trigger. Well, I think I was 12, so it it just defeated me. There's nothing I could do about it. So I've never been a fan of double action.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about your carry gun.
Well, it's bone stock, including the trigger, bone and the sights. It's a bone stock P320 compact. Nothing special about it at all.
Are you going to do any work on it?
I am eventually going to buy a set of Dawson sights to put on it, just so it's the same sights. And I like those sights a whole lot better than the basic stock sights. So yeah, I'm gonna put some Dawsons on it, and that's probably all I will do to it. Well, there is one thing that I'm seriously considering if I have the money. Uh, who's the guy that does all the Glock modifications down in Florida? Stipples them. He's like uh, Boresight Solutions. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, he does a lot of good stuff with a bunch of different handguns.
Yeah, he's primarily known for modifying Glocks for duty use, so that you can, you can't get them ripped out of your hand because polymer guns tend to be a little slippery, and he does sort of a duty series. It's not him; it's the people that work for him. They do a stipple job on the what do you call it? Just the hand the grip part, the grip module.
The grip frame.
Yes, because the 320 is really nice that you can take the gun part out of the gun and be left with the plastic grip frame. The only thing that the plastic grip has that is a moving part is the magazine release. Well, like no, I think that goes off too. I can't remember. But the magazine release stays as part of the grip frame, but that's about it. Well, you can ship one to him, or he'll buy one and just do it and ship it to you, and he'll stipple that up for you. And having seen his work up close, my brother has a couple not 320s. He has a couple Glocks done by him. The work's fantastic. So I'm thinking seriously about doing that because I'm used to the grip tape on my competition gun because that's the gun that's in my hand basically, I don't know, 4 or 5 days a week doing dry fire practice. And then I touch the slick plastic stock compact and I'm like, "Ooh, this is too slippery. I would like some traction on it." But I don't want to put, grip tape on it. I don't want to put skateboard tape on my carry gun because well, I don't have a $1 million undershirt budget.
You don't want to cheese grater yourself.
True.
Yeah. How does it compare to that's directly replacing the Springfield Armory, right?
The the XD.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to carry I sent my 320 compact back for the recall. And so I went back to carrying the XD for the 8 whole days that the 320 was out. So it was kind of weird going back to it. It felt totally different. Um, the only advantage that I have with the 45, the 45 compact XD is that had been stippled. Springer Precision did that, and it was easier, more solid. It was easier to grip. So,
But bigger,
I
heavier,
like the
holds
yeah.
less rounds.
Actually, since I carry it. I went from 15 rounds in the gun to 10 rounds plus one in the chamber, and 2 magazines of 13 rounds of 45 versus 15 rounds. Lot. It weighs a lot. I didn't realize how much it weighed until I switched from the 9mm from the 9mm back to the 45. Like, holy crap, this stuff weighs a lot. Two 13 round mags plus the gun with 11 rounds of 45 in it. Those 45s, they add up after a while.
So, like, how specifically did the recall go? Like, was it a pretty painless process to send it back and do all that stuff?
The biggest problem I'm having with the recall is idiots online. Oh my goodness, I don't want to send it in. Somebody's going to steal it in the mail. Oh, I can't take a gun into FedEx. They have a no gun sign. Oh, I'm going to wait and find out what everybody else does. I'm like, Jesus, just send the stupid thing in. I sent, like 3 days after the whole thing blew up, I went to they put out something on SIG's website. Hey, register for the recall here, or I'm sorry, the voluntary upgrade. I'm like, okay, cool. So I signed up, just the carry gun. I have not done anything with the competition gun, but the carry gun, I put in the serial number, my name, address, phone number, all that stuff. And I think the first people that were getting emails to send them back happened on a Friday. I got my email on a Tuesday. So there were a couple people that had gone out on Friday, a couple people, a few people gone out Friday, a few people had gone out on Monday. I get mine on Tuesday. I come home, I throw it in the SIG box. All they wanted was the gun, no magazines, no spare parts. If you've got a slide exchange kit, right? Caliber exchange kit, you're supposed to send the slide and barrel and stuff like that for that. But nothing else, no magazines, no aftermarket stuff, none of that crap. Well, I dropped it in the mail. I just took it to FedEx. It's about 25 minutes away. Drove it to FedEx, handed it to the lady. She mails it off. I get notification on Thursday. I think it was about an hour before Weird and I were set to record a podcast. I get the email, or not really an email. I got something from my deliveries app that said, "Oh, it's been delivered to SIG." So that's on Thursday. On Monday night at like midnight 30, an email came through. Of course, I'm asleep, so I get it in the morning. On Tuesday, I read it. Your gun will be back. It's been we shipped it out today. It's going to be back on Wednesday. So Wednesday, up comes the lady from FedEx. Here's your package. Sign here. So I put the gun in the mail in FedEx's hands on Tuesday. Wednesday the next week, I have it back.
That's pretty good.
Well, they were saying 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm thinking, wow, I really hope it's 4 and not 6. And 8 days later, here you go.
Instead of one and change.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because it's 2 days each direction. There's 2 days of a weekend So of the 8 days they had it, 6 days they didn't actually have it. Right? So they had the day they got it, late in the day. They had 2 days to do something to it. So they had Friday and Monday. And Monday night they handed or Monday evening they handed it to the FedEx guy, and it's a 2 day ship home. So they've got plenty of people working on it. They got plenty of room. And I've heard some sort of insider rumor stuff, or people that claim to be insider rumors, I don't know, that they were braced for sort of two waves. The initial, here's the guns, and then the, oh, look how fast this is going. Look how well it's going. We'll send ours in now because we're going to wait because we're idiots. I mean, like, what did you think was going to happen? This is the major manufacturer. They're not going to screw this up. If it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, like they promised, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. Great, just deal with it. But oh god, the people are like, oh, FedEx, it'll get stolen in FedEx. Like, so what? Is this a rare gun? Is this a priceless heirloom? No, it's a freaking stock gun that's still in production. If they lose it, FedEx has to pay Sig, and Sig will just give you a brand new one.
So, where
So,
do you get any last questions here before we wrap up?
well, I first wanted to know just I mean, obviously the voluntary upgrade, as they're calling it, is for the drop safety issue that was discovered. Um, is it pretty much just now it's drop safe, or are you noticing any difference with the gun?
Well, there are a couple of differences. The trigger pull feels slightly different, but the biggest issue, um, how much do you guys remember about the way the trigger works on the P320 when you're just dry firing it?
Probably not as
Remember
well
any?
as you, but I've heard this story.
Well, I'm pulling it out, and maybe we can hear it on the microphone. This is my competition gun, which is unmodified by Sig, but Gray Guns has it. If you squeeze the trigger, you can hear the striker falls. You let off the trigger and pull it again, it'll click again. That's not the striker falling. Um, that's I can continue to dry fire it with just a click. It's not the exact same trigger pull, but it's close enough for government work. And it's way better as a dry fire gun than, say, the Glock, which the trigger just goes dead, or the M&P, which is just sort of mushy after that. Well, I don't know how many people are used to it, but if you dry fire a bone stock P320, you'll usually, if you're pulling it reasonably slowly, you'll feel sort of a double click. You'll feel the hammer fall, and then you'll feel another click slightly after that. And that was designed into the gun that way. I think that is because the first click was the striker falling, and the second click was the disconnector disconnecting. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I'm not really up on the internals of guns. I'm like the worst gun geek ever. I just
Or it
don't
might be the
know that
disconnector
how they work.
reconnecting because it's out of battery. I don't know. I need to see how the inside of it works.
Well, there's something that it'll that's what gives you the ability to dry fire the trigger, is that the disconnector, there's something to do with the disconnector. Well, the upgrade, they've traded because the army objected to this double click. Of all the things to complain about, the army said, we don't like this double click in the trigger when you're dry firing it. You never feel it if you're live firing the gun because the gun is gone off and is in recoil when it happens. You don't feel it. The only thing that does for you is it allows you to have the click when you're dry firing the gun after you pull the trigger the first time. And so the army complained about it, so Sig redesigned the trigger. That's why Sig was like, dude, we'll have your triggers upgraded. We'll just upgrade them to the trigger that the M17 is getting, right? I think it's the M17.
Yeah.
So basically what happened is that the army stole my dry fire click because they upgraded so it's now drop safe, I was never really worried about it being not drop safe in the first place because you had to drop it in a very specific way from a considerable height on a fairly hard floor. So I will neither confirm nor deny that I took my carry gun and tested it. And I would say that if had I done such a thing, I would have found that it didn't go off. I pick it up, pull the trigger, the striker fell. So obviously it hadn't gone off. My competition gun, which has a much, much, much lighter trigger in it, has about a 4 pound trigger in it, that would go off every single time. But the unmodified trigger didn't. So, I mean, what kind of altitude are people dropping it on cement to get this thing to go off at a very specific angle with no rotation in it? Like, it's just really unlikely. So, I was never really worried about it. But if they're going to do the voluntary upgrade, and there are places who are saying you can't bring your Sig here until you get it upgraded, like an instructor that I would go to and take his class, but he's like, no, if you have a Sig that a P320 that hasn't been upgraded, then you can't come to my class. I'm like, seriously? You teach on dirt. Like, how is it going to go off? Are you gonna drop it from orbit? So, but the trigger's nice when I got it back, but it is mushy. You pull it once and then it just is dead. It's mushy, dead trigger. I can still dry fire with that. That's great. It still works, and I know how to dry fire with it. But it was really cool to have that click every time you pulled the trigger when you were dry firing multiple targets.
But
So
is the
kind of
pull weight, pull smoothness, pull geometry about the same?
thereabouts. Hard for
Yep.
me to say. I didn't spend anywhere near as much time on that trigger as I did on the competition gun. Because the competition gun, I'm taking it out and I'm dry firing it in the garage for, I don't know, an hour, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So it was kind of weird. You shot that. Oh well, shot it. You dry fired it at the NRA show, right?
Yep.
And how would you say? What do you think about that? The stock trigger on a P320?
It was perfectly acceptable. A very, very good stock trigger.
Right. Well, I've been playing with this Gray Guns competition trigger in my full size. That's what I've been using, and I haven't really done any dry fire on the carry gun because why? Because it's loaded, and then I would have to unload it and safe it, find the barrel block for it. It just didn't really feel like doing a whole lot of work to practice with it. Well, I was boxing it up to ship it off to Sig, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna dry fire a little bit with it. Holy crap, it felt like I was pulling a dumpster with my finger compared to this competition trigger. And I'm laughing at myself because I'm like, this is a way better trigger than, the Glock trigger or the M&P trigger. And I'm thinking, oh, it's nowhere near as good as my competition trigger. Well, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't have the time on that trigger to tell you, oh, it feels significantly different. I don't think it does. It was always a good trigger. It's just a lot heavier than I'm used to, given that I'm mostly on a 4 pound competition trigger all day.
So one last thing to go into, and I don't know if you're the right guy to ask this, but of course we talked a little bit about the fact that the actual Sig P320 is just that little chassis that's in the frame that has the fire control group on it. And so therefore you can upgrade the grip frame. You could have multiple grip frames. You mentioned caliber conversion kits and all that. Have you looked into you taking advantage of that modularity? Have you looked into changing out your guns, converting stuff? I mean, obviously you could do 1-to-1 swaps. You could have a heavily stippled or some other a modified grip frame and then have a stock one kicking around if somebody ever were worried that someone might balk about buying a modified gun. But have you looked into anything else like caliber conversions or size conversions?
Well, looking at Brownells right now, since you started talking about it, if I wanted a caliber exchange kit to 357 SIG or 40, a 357 SIG caliber exchange kit is $423.99, and the 40 is $407 flat. Uh, they've got one for 9mm, but I'm already in a 9mm. So if I wanted a P320 compact in 40, just in case, the ammo goes to hell and nobody has anything, they always have 40 because nobody likes that stuff. If I wanted to be able to shoot a 40 out of my basic an unmodified Sig P320, I'd have to pay somebody $407 and I'd get one magazine and, the everything but the chassis. Well, heck, for another $100, I just buy a whole gun.
That was my exact thought when uh the 250 came out, which of course was the double action only hammer fired version of pretty much the exact same gun that you have. Was
Right.
Yeah, it looked at the cost of the kits, but of course we must note that Sig is a German company, and in Germany, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they've got limits on at least how many handguns, if not how many guns total you can have. So
Right.
once you acquire a certain number of guns, if a new gun strikes your fancy, you got to find a gun to go on the chopping block. And if
Well,
that's the laws in
here's
your yep,
here's the question I have though on that. You've got a gun that you can shoot multiple calibers. Why? Why do you need another caliber? There's no good reason to shoot a 40 anymore unless it's a case of I got nothing but 40 available to me because everybody and their dog ran out and bought all the 9mm, right? Because we've been through that. But if you're in if you're a gun guy in Europe and you're only allowed 3 guns for some reason, why what advantage do you get for having a big one and a little one? You can't carry it unless I guess you're in the Czech Republic. You can't carry the thing, so there's no advantage to having a little gun that you can carry. You may as well just buy the full size. And what's the difference to you if it only shoots 9mm rather than 9 and 40? I think the real advantage to having the modular thing is that they can build grip modules that aren't just grip modules. They can have lights and lasers in them and take up very little extra space in your holster. There's
also
there's
we talked about
things
it
you can.
with the adoption of the M17 with Nathaniel F. Was did the military actually think, oh, this is actually a pretty good idea, because if a tank runs over the gun and cracks the grip frame, instead of having to requisition a whole new gun like you would with a Beretta, you can just pull the grip module off and throw that in the trash and just pull a new one out of the parts bin.
And that wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't think that the advantage to having the chassis is in that you can change calibers. I think that, like, I have an AR-15 that has a quick change barrel on it, and I've never had to use it because I don't have a spare barrel. But there's problems with that. If you change the barrel out, now the sighting system that you use may not be right for what you're doing. So like I can swap for a 6.5 Grendel barrel. Well, a 6.5 Grendel shoots a much further range than the 5.56 that I've got in it. So what am I going to do? Am I going to still shoot it with my EOTech sight, or am I going to want to put some sort of a magnifying sight on there? So I think the same thing with changing calibers in your pistol is that who are we asking this to work for? Who wants that? What is it a gee whiz, or is it a, well, who needs that? Is there some effective use for this? I think really what's nice about it is that I can take my grip and if I want one that's like it won't work with my competition gun because that's painted. But for all the guys out there who don't go get a Cerakote job on their gun, if they want to shoot competition with the same gun that they carry, then they can get a grip frame for $40. Literally, is as much as you'll ever pay for the stupid thing. For $40, they can get one and they can put grip tape on it. Well, you're not going to carry a gun with grip tape on it. That sucks. But you can go and take your grip and go to say Boresight Solutions and say, well, look, I need one for carry, and they'll stipple you one that won't grind your body to pieces, and you can carry that, but you can't shoot that in competition. That's not allowed, but you can use grip tape. So for $40, you just swap back and forth. Or somebody can I think the 3D models for 3D printing, they've been released. People have them, so you can make your own design. So instead of having a rail on the bottom of it, you want to have a flashlight, right? So you wanna lighten the thing. So design it. There's plenty of room in there for you to put batteries and all kinds of other stuff. There's neat things you can do with it, but I don't think the real super deluxe deal with that is that you can change the caliber. I just don't see that as the issue, or change the size. Why would you have a full size and then swap it down to a subcompact? The price difference is minimal by both.
I would
Or
argue
if
again for dudes in Germany who are like me and Ryan, who have a bunch of guns that are kind of sort of like each other, but no, but they're a little bit different. And that's important to us.
Yeah.
and if you're in a place where you can carry and you want a compact or a subcompact to carry, then you're also in a place where you can have two guns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's, I mean,
So
that's definitely, that's the same idea with those little drop-in blowback bolts for the AR-15, where, oh, look, you drop in the bolt and you've got this modified magazine and you push the pin and out it goes and in goes this, this bolt and you've got a 22 long rifle AR. Well, that's, that's all well and good, but the night that somebody breaks into your house and you go for your home defense AR is going to be the night that you came home late from the range and too tired to clean your gun and you left the 22 conversion kit into it.
Yeah. Well, here's one thing that I think is really good about the changeable grip frame, because they sell it in 3 different sizes. I mean, if you can get it, if you can find them, they sell it with a medium grip frame, which I think is perfect for me. They have a size large, so if you have giant meat hooks, then maybe a large one is great. But everybody who buys one of these things should scour every aisle and call Sig until they send you one and get a size small, because inevitably you're going to be teaching somebody how to shoot, and having the size small grip module on it means that you can then put it in the hands of some woman who has small hands or a guy who has small hands. Erin came to visit when she was running from the hurricane, and I'm like, oh, here, try it out with the medium grip module. Oh, that's all right. Okay, now check this out. Boom, boom, boom. And I swapped it out. I'm like, how about that? Oh, this is much nicer with the small grip module. So that is a fantastic thing. But the whole changing calibers, I'm not sold that that's even a valuable, useful thing.
Yeah, certainly
It's for people who likes to shoot a 40. Well, just buy the 40.
So anything else weird before we wrap up?
I think we got it all.
All right. With that, we'll head into the wrap-up section and close out the show. Don't forget to shop Brownells using our affiliate link. Head to firearmsradio.tv and click the affiliate link in the upper right-hand corner. Be sure to go like Handgun Radio on Facebook and share it with your friends, and check out those pictures from the auction house. Leave us a review on iTunes and listen to all the great shows on the Firearms Radio Network. Be sure to check out the Firearms Radio Network on YouTube. And Weird, thank you again for coming on the show, as always.
Well,
where can people find you?
You can find me at my blog, which is weirdworld.com. You can also find me on the GunBlog Variety Cast and the Squirrel Report.
And Sean, thank you for coming on the show. And where can people find you and learn more about your experiences?
Well, they can come listen to me every week on GunBlog Varietycast at gunblogvarietycast.com. And this week again, Weird is the co-host because Erin is still recovering. So the last 3 weeks, I think, this is 3 weeks in a row you've been the co-host, right, Weird?
Yeah.
Yep. So if you're not getting enough Weird here, then you should come check us out.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll have to have you on again sometime very soon.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. And until next week, have fun and safe shooting.